So we talked a little bit about selections, or if you're at this point in the document, you should know something about selections. So let's talk a little bit about masking. So we looked before, if you don't know about how you can just pull things away, this is cutting away all those pixels. And so all you have is this selection. This is called destructive. This is one way of being destructive in your editing. A non-destructive way of editing, say I have wanted to keep this full round spot for some reason, but I just want to have a little bit of the bird for now. I can use what's called a layer mask. So I can do that one of two ways. Either I can go up to layer and I can do layer mask, and I can either reveal or hide my section. I want to reveal my section. And voila, you see over here, I have a little length thing here. I have a black mask next to it. And let's look at a different way to do that too. So I just step backwards or Control Z in my history. And I have a selection made. An easy way I can go and make a layer mask is to go down here and click the Add Layer Mask button. And voila. So now I have this image, but all of those pixels are actually still here. So what if I want to maybe make this less of a hard curve here? One cool thing I can do is select my brush. I'm going to go up here and select a soft brush, 100 pixels, hardness at 0. Okay. And I'm going to make sure I'm on the layer mask. And the shortcuts for this are, so what does that do? That switches to my brush. It sets me to my default colors, which are black and white. And X lets me toggle between black and white. So with this, I now need to make sure I'm selected on my layer mask. I can do that by checking where the little marks are. If I'm selected on here, I'm actually painting on the layer, which is not so great. I want to be on the layer mask. So here we are on the layer mask, and white reveals. So you see I'm revealing all of these things under the mask here. Oh. And then black conceal. So I just pressed the X button. Remember, the X button makes this go back and forth. No X shift, no X option, just X. And then I can paint this back in. Or I can paint out things. And if I accidentally do this, I can paint it back in by, again, X. White reveals, black conceals. Make my brush a little bit bigger using the bracket keys. And here you go. If I want to go back and use my selection tools that we played with a little bit before, or you should know at this point if you're playing with them, you can use the arrow or the lasso tool and then paint in or out of that selection. So say I take the magnetic lasso tool and I try to go in here. Magnetic lasso tool, you can also set your own points by clicking. And then I go back to B, D, X. Paint it all in. And so, see, it's only painting where it's selected. So I've got some white over here. I need to deselect before I go in there. One thing to take note of though is that this brush is actually too big and has some overspray. So I'm going to need to tone it down and see I have less overspray. Paint it back in. There you go. So each image, when you're compositing it, is a little different. Some will need a little bit more transparency, some will need on the edges, some won't. Again, there's a million ways to do this in Photoshop, and the more you learn about selecting and masking and finessing those things, really helps. We're gonna look at, if we double click on the mask, there's some cool things here. We have the properties panel pops up of the mask. Here you can feather the mask. That means making the edges creep in a little bit more transparent or not transparent. You can also, if you only want it, if you want a little bit of that white still there, you can have a little bit of that guy at 50%, or about 50 or 50% there. You can also go in and refine your mask edge. This is a very exciting tool. Has all sorts of options for moving, for smoothing, feather, contrasting. Maybe you're just a little off and you need to pull it back in and make it a little smoother. There's all sorts of options within these options, but those are for a more advanced lesson. For now, this is just the basics. If you want the bird to go instead of the silhouette, you can invert your mask here. You can also, on certain color ranges, so if I want all the blacks, and again, if you hold down Shift, you will plus more into that. Sorry, here's your color range palette. So that's basic to masking.